Trying to define yourself is like trying to bite your own teeth. This quote is by Alan Watts. Just as defining yourself is an impossible inward loop, trying to awaken spiritually traps you in the same self-chasing cycle. The very methods you've been taught, meditation, retreats, crystals, mantras, might actually be creating the biggest obstacle between you and the enlightenment you're seeking. Thousands of people spend decades chasing awakening like it's a destination on a map, following gurus who promise them the secret formula. Yet most of them end up more frustrated, more spiritually confused, and further from peace than when they started. If you've been on a spiritual journey for any length of time, you've probably encountered this idea that awakening is something you need to achieve, earn, or work toward. Today, we'll explore why the conventional approach to awakening often fails, and I'll share the real path that doesn't require years of struggle or esoteric practices. Let me start with a story that perfectly illustrates the problem with how most people approach awakening. There was once a man who heard about a magical pearl that granted ultimate wisdom and peace to whoever found it. Excited, he sold everything he owned to fund his search. He traveled to distant lands, studied with countless teachers, spent years in meditation caves, and followed every map and instruction he could find. Decades passed. He became exhausted, frustrated, and bitter. One day, sitting by a river in defeat, he noticed something glinting in the water near his feet. As he reached down to pick it up, he realized it was the pearl he'd been seeking all along. It had been in the river that flowed through his hometown the entire time. This story captures the fundamental misunderstanding that keeps most seekers trapped in endless spiritual seeking. They're looking for something extraordinary, distant, and hard to achieve, when what they're seeking is actually the most ordinary, immediate, and natural thing in the world. The spiritual industry has turned awakening into a product to be sold, a goal to be reached, a mountain to be climbed. Books promise 7 steps to enlightenment. Gurus offer weekend workshops for instant awakening. Online courses claim to have the ultimate technique for spiritual breakthrough. But here's what no one wants to tell you. Awakening isn't a state you achieve. It's not a permanent high, a continuous feeling of bliss, or a certificate you earn after completing enough spiritual practices. That's all spiritual materialism, just the ego wearing spiritual clothes. True awakening is the simple recognition of what you already are. It's not about becoming something different. It's about stopping the exhaustive effort to become something other than what you naturally are right now. Think about it this way. When you're dreaming at night, you might spend the entire dream searching for your house, not realizing you're already home in bed. The awakening happens not when you find your house in the dream, but when you wake up and realize you were home all along. The same thing happens with spiritual seeking. You're searching for your true self, your authentic nature, your connection to the divine, not realizing that what you're seeking is what's doing the seeking. You are already what you're looking for. But why does the traditional approach to awakening fail so spectacularly for most people? There are several reasons, and understanding them is crucial to finding the real path. First, seeking creates a seeker. When you make awakening into a goal, you automatically create a you who doesn't have it yet. This strengthens the very sense of a separate self that awakening is meant to dissolve. It's like trying to catch your own shadow. The harder you chase it, the faster it runs away. Every technique, every practice, every method implies that you need to be fixed, improved, or transformed. But what if you're not broken? What if there's nothing wrong with you that needs to be corrected through spiritual practices? Second, seeking keeps you focused on a future moment when you'll finally get it. But awakening can only happen now. It's not a future destination, it's a present recognition. When you're constantly looking ahead to some enlightened version of yourself, you miss the aliveness and awareness that's already here. I've seen people meditate for 20 years, waiting for that magical moment when they'll suddenly be awakened. They've turned meditation into another form of postponing life, another way to avoid being fully present to what's already here. Third, seeking often becomes just another form of self-improvement. The ego loves a project, especially a spiritual one. It can spend lifetimes collecting experiences, accumulating knowledge, and building a spiritual identity. I'm someone who meditates. I'm on a higher vibration. I'm more conscious than others. But this spiritual ego is often more stubborn and harder to see through than the regular ego. At least the regular ego is honest about what it wants. The spiritual ego hides behind concepts like love and light while still operating from the same basic desire for specialness and superiority. Fourth, traditional seeking often involves effort and struggle. You're told you need to discipline your mind, control your thoughts, transcend your humanity, or reach elevated states of consciousness. This creates an adversarial relationship with your own experience. You start to see certain thoughts as bad and others as good. You judge your emotions as unspiritual or low vibrational. You create an internal war between who you think you should be and who you naturally are. But true awakening isn't about perfecting yourself or rising above your humanity. It's about fully embracing what you are, including all the messy, imperfect, beautifully human aspects of your experience. So what's the alternative? What's the real path to awakening if it's not through traditional spiritual practices and seeking? The real path is so simple that most people miss it completely. It's the path of radical acceptance of what's already here. It's the recognition that you don't need to go anywhere, become anyone, or achieve anything to be who you truly are. This doesn't mean you stop all spiritual practices or never engage with teachings, but it means your relationship to them changes completely. Instead of using them to get somewhere, you engage with them as expressions of what you already are. You meditate not to achieve enlightenment, but because sitting in stillness is a natural expression of your peaceful nature. You study teachings not to accumulate knowledge, but because learning about truth resonates with the truth you already embody. Let me share 3 key principles that characterize this authentic path to awakening. First principle: stop trying to improve yourself spiritually. This might sound counterintuitive, but hear me out. Every attempt to improve implies that something is wrong with you as you are. But what if your true nature is already perfect, already whole, already complete? This doesn't mean you stop growing or learning. It means you recognize that growth happens naturally when you stop forcing it. Like a flower that blooms without effort when the conditions are right, your spiritual unfolding happens effortlessly when you stop trying to make it happen. Instead of asking, how can I become more spiritual? Try asking, what am I when I'm not trying to be anything? The answer might surprise you. Second principle: embrace your ordinary human experience completely. Awakening doesn't mean floating on clouds of bliss or maintaining constant states of peace. It means finding the sacred in the mundane, the extraordinary in the ordinary. True awakening is washing dishes with full presence. It's feeling anger without judging it as unspiritual. It's experiencing sadness without needing to transform it into joy. It's being fully human without apologizing for your humanity. Many people have profound spiritual experiences, mystical states, visions, feelings of cosmic unity, and then spend the rest of their lives trying to get back to those peak moments. But these experiences come and go like weather. What remains constant is the awareness that witnesses all experiences. The enlightened person isn't someone who lives in a permanent state of bliss. They're someone who finds the same peace in mundane Tuesday afternoon as they do in profound spiritual experiences. Third principle: recognize what you already are instead of trying to become what you think you should be. This is perhaps the most radical shift you can make. Instead of working toward awakening, simply notice what's already awake right now. Who is aware of reading these words? Who knows that you're having thoughts? Who experiences your emotions? This knowing awareness is not something you achieve. It's what you are. It's been here your entire life, witnessing every experience without being touched by any of them. You don't need to create this awareness or develop it. You just need to recognize it. It's like suddenly noticing the space in a room that was always there, but that you'd been overlooking because you were focused on the furniture. This awareness has no qualities that can be improved. It's not more present when you're meditating and less present when you're stuck in traffic. It's equally here whether you're feeling peaceful or anxious, whether you're having profound insights or mundane thoughts. Now you might be wondering, if awakening is so simple, why isn't everyone awakened? Why do we need spiritual practices at all? The answer is that while awakening itself is simple, recognizing what's already here can be challenging because we're so habitually identified with our thoughts, emotions, and the story of being a separate self. Spiritual practices can be helpful, but not in the way most people think. They're not tools for achieving awakening. They're tools for removing the obstacles to recognizing what's already awake. Meditation doesn't create awareness, it helps you notice the awareness that's already here by giving you a break from the constant mental activity that usually obscures it. Self-inquiry doesn't build a spiritual self, it dissolves the illusory sense of being a separate self by investigating what you actually are. Energy work doesn't raise your vibration to some higher level, it helps you recognize the energy that you already are and release the tensions that make you feel disconnected from it. Used in this way, spiritual practices become expressions of awakening rather than methods for achieving it. They're ways of celebrating and exploring what you already are, not tools for becoming something you're not. But here's the beautiful paradox. The moment you stop trying to awaken, you realize you've never been asleep. The moment you stop seeking for your true self, you recognize that the seeker itself was just a case of mistaken identity. This recognition doesn't happen through effort or achievement bit. It happens through a simple shift in perspective, like suddenly seeing the hidden image in a stereogram. One moment you're looking for it, and the next moment it's obvious that it was always there. You don't earn this recognition through years of practice or spiritual brownie points. It's equally available to someone who's been meditating for decades and someone who's never heard of spirituality. It's equally available right now and never more available than right now. Some people have this recognition spontaneously while walking in nature, washing dishes, or sitting in traffic. Others have it during meditation or while reading a spiritual text. The circumstances don't matter. What matters is the sudden knowing that what you've been seeking is what you've always been. This is why the path to awakening is so unpredictable. There's no formula, no guaranteed method, no linear progression. It's more like falling in love. You can't force it to happen, but when it does, you wonder how you ever missed it. Now let's address some common questions and objections to this approach. You might be thinking, but what about all the advanced spiritual practitioners who've spent years developing their abilities? What about the obvious differences in consciousness between different people? It's true that people have different capacities for things like concentration, psychic abilities, or altered states of consciousness. These are like different talents or skills. Some people are naturally good at music, others at mathematics, others at accessing non-ordinary states of consciousness. But these abilities, impressive as they might be, are not awakening itself. Awakening is the recognition of what you fundamentally are, and this recognition is equally available to everyone because everyone is equally that same fundamental awareness. You might also be thinking, if I stop seeking and practicing, won't I become spiritually lazy or lose my connection to the divine? This concern comes from the belief that your spiritual connection is something you maintain through effort. But what if your connection to the divine is not something you create or maintain, but something you are? When you recognize yourself as the awareness in which all experience appears, you realize that you are not separate from what people call God, or the divine, or universal consciousness. You are expressions of it, waves in the ocean of consciousness itself. From this perspective, the spiritual practices become celebrations rather than obligations. You might still meditate, but you do it because sitting in stillness feels natural, not because you're trying to achieve something. The unpredictable path of awakening isn't a journey to somewhere else. It's a journey to nowhere but here, to no one but yourself, to nothing but this moment. Remember, you don't need to wait for awakening. You don't need to earn it, achieve it, or become worthy of it. You already are what you're seeking. The question is not how to awaken, but how to stop overlooking what's already awake right now. Thanks for watching.